Hello and welcome back to the Shack Podcast Network, sponsored by the ODShack.com. My name is Ethan Frank, and today we're going to be talking about the possibility, the very likely return of the NBA in the next couple of weeks and months. And today I am joined once again by the founder, Mr. Aaron Notis. Aaron, how are you on this lovely Monday afternoon?
I'm just fantastic because of the thought of the NBA coming back. It just makes me overjoyed.
So why don't we get right into it? Just make sure that before or after you listen to this podcast, you're checking out all the new content that's up on the ODShack.com and everything that is going on there. So the main plan for the NBA is to have a single host site at Disney World in Orlando, Florida. It is not very unlikely going to include all 30 NBA teams, most likely teams that are within 5 or 6 games of that final playoff spot. And this all kind of came to fruition and was crystallized last week, Aaron, on a GM's call with Adam Silver on Thursday, May 28th.
I mean, I just love that there's progress. Honestly, there were tweets that came out, Dinwiddie, Jared Allen. I don't know why it's all Brooklyn Nets players, but they were saying mid-July. I think the rumor now is late July. But I love that Adam Silver, as I think Hassan Minhaj put it best, we need an NBA commissioner for the United States of America. Adam Silver for president.
Adam Silver for president, the first ever Jewish president. He'll represent well.
Supporting the boys.
Exactly. And then we had the Board of Governors call with Silver on Friday, in which I think Adam Silver presented his plan. A bunch of different votes were taken. I think some votes regarding, did you want only playoff teams to come back and just have it be 16 teams? Are we going to have conferences, no conferences, interconference battles in the first round, stuff like that, just reseeding, votes about play-in tournaments, and all different types of votes. And I think his plan has really crystallized, and a lot of the owners and GMs have coalesced around his plan. And he is the man in charge, and he is doing a phenomenal job. You cannot say the same about Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball as you see all the craziness that's going on there. I mean, Roger Goodell is the head honcho in the NFL, but that's so far away. You don't really know what's going on. We saw the National Hockey League get some stuff done, but we don't really know how much Gary Bettman was really involved in that. He's taken some criticism before. We know Adam Silver is the guy getting this stuff done, and he's done a phenomenal job.
It's so crazy watching this at the same time as Rob Manfred is dealing with the MLB, because Rob Manfred has had a terrible offseason. We got so many complaints. Oh, it was a slap on the wrist for the Astros. It was not enough of a punishment. We need more punish the players. They obviously knew about it. They weren't just blindly following this practice of cheating or however they may have done it, because maybe the MLB missed some things, but they did punish them. I would argue with anyone over the Altuve shirt controversy. But
that's
Adam
just an
Silver,
angry Yankee fan right there.
Don't even get me started. Adam Silver, even though different situation, obviously you ended the NBA, you were mid-season. Rudy Gobert, obviously in the hotel. You're at the Thunder game. Thunder PA announcer lets everyone leave the stadium. He goes, "Everyone is safe." The worst thing to say to a large group of people. Everyone is safe.
Have you ever seen an action movie?
Yeah, exactly. You're not safe. If you say everyone is safe, you're not safe.
Please remain calm. Everything is going to be okay. Are exactly the words you do not want to hear.
They're the worst. I think, honestly, the worst set of words you could hear when you're in a public setting. Aside from, I wouldn't say that, a gunshot isn't a word. Unless, someone's trying to murder you and some guy's like, "Hey, yo, this guy behind you is trying to murder you." Be calm, everyone is safe is a terrible thing you want to hear. And that is aside the point. Rob Manfred, obviously different position, as Silver was in the middle of the season, and Rob Manfred was in the middle of spring training, which doesn't really matter that much. Plus, you've got all the owners cutting their minor leaguers. The MLB is a shit show right now.
Yeah.
All these minor leaguers are out of jobs. People who thought they had a career in baseball, they were double-A players. They usually get to the MLB in 3 or 4 years if they actually do something. Even if they're just playing 2 games, they still get there. The NBA has actually been able to bring something to fruition, and that's why Adam Silver for president. That's all I can say.
So we kind of went from the negatives back to the positives there. So thank you for bringing that around, Aaron. I wasn't really sure where you were going with the gunshots talk there. But
had to bring it back.
We brought it back around to Adam Silver for president, so that's good. So why don't we go over the likely plan that's going to happen with the NBA? We had heard rumors that there was going to be possibly a World Cup style in which there would be, I think, 5 groups of 4 teams, or maybe 4 groups of 5, and that after this group stage, either the top 2 teams in each group would advance straight to the second round of the playoffs, and it would go on as scheduled like that. This is most likely not going to happen because I think it devalues teams like the Lakers, the Bucks, the Raptors, the Clippers, who finished at the top of their conferences. It devalues their accomplishments. So I think we're just going to go with the straight play-in tournament to the playoffs and go with 16 teams from there. And something interesting I heard today listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, him and Ryan Russillo were talking about potential ideas to help reward the Lakers and Bucks for being the number 1 seeds, as they will not now have home court advantage in the playoffs, was them getting to pick their first round opponent. What do you think of that idea?
It's an interesting concept. Going back to the World Cup style of play, I think it's good for the NBA to have that kind of thing. Like, just kind of everyone else is kind of against it. If you're against it, my thought process behind it is that group stage. You know how the beginning of an NBA season, the play isn't really at the level you'd like?
Yep.
We're at the playoffs. We want playoff level basketball. These guys haven't played since March 13th?
March
Probably
11th.
earlier, March 11th. So if they haven't really like yes, some facilities are open, but if you haven't played in a competitive basketball game since March 11th, the quality of basketball is not going to be top tier. It's not going to be NBA playoffs that we know and love. So I think the group stages would have given teams just that time to really get back together, they could either, obviously, you lose in the group stages, you're done. But it also gives teams who are good and winning a time to get back on track.
I think that the thing, though, is that there are going to be a couple regular season games before. So they try to – I think it's that 70-game threshold is the thing with the local TV deals in which they get their revenue and they get their money. So I think that's what Silver's trying to hit. So I think we'll see 5 or 6 regular season games, which I think will be good to knock the rust off and be able to get teams back in game shape. But right now we're looking at 20 to 22 teams with a play-in tournament. And so why don't we go over the teams for a 22-team tournament? And these teams would have to be within 6 games of the 8th seed in the West or the East right now. And in the West, within 6 games right now is New Orleans, Phoenix, Portland, Sacramento, and San Antonio. And in the East, it's just Washington. So we see a little disparity there. Clearly, the West is more stacked than the East, something that's been going on for a long time. People want to play on the West Coast. It's a much more difficult conference. So it is possible, and there have been talkings, and I know some people in the league are not happy that maybe the NBA is just trying to get Zion in the playoffs. Do you think that is a real thing, Aaron?
I mean, yes, I want to see Zion Williamson in the playoffs. Do I want to see Zion Williamson in the playoffs 2 months removed from the game of basketball? Absolutely not. This all goes back to them not having played for 2 months. They're going to have a month of practice. I think that was part of the negotiations.
Yep. I think the start time was July. I think it was July 25th or July 31st. Late July would be when.
Late July. But you're looking at the teams who are in the playoffs, right? You got the top 8 seeds in the East, the Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, Miami Heat, Pacers, Sixers, my lovely Brooklyn Nets, and the Magic. And then you've got with the Wizards because they get in if it's the 22-team format. And then you've got the out West, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Jazz, Thunder, Rockets, Mavericks, Grizzlies, Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio, and Phoenix, all the way down to the 13th seed in that Western Conference. I really believe that Devin Booker is probably one of the most exciting players in the game that nobody really talks about enough. I think Devin Booker playoff basketball would be great. But Devin Booker playoff basketball 2 months removed, not that great. LeBron playoff for basketball 2 months removed probably won't be as stellar as we always see.
No, I don't think anyone will. Is the thing.
I think it's going to be a rough playoffs. I think teams are going to be playing really scrappy games. You know how the Orlando Magic always start every season 4-0 and then are terrible? Maybe the Orlando Magic upset the first round because that's just something the Orlando Magic would do randomly. I feel like the last 2 seasons the Orlando Magic start their season 4-0 and then they just drop off.
That's possible. But I think the thing is there are so many what-if scenarios. So I think you just have to focus on staying the course. What if one person gets sick? What if a person gets hurt because they came back too quickly? There are so many bad things that can happen that I think people are focusing too much on these what if scenarios and not the, oh, we're going to have basketball again. It's going to be great. And I think, oh, people are going to be rusty. Well, you know what? I'll take rusty basketball over no basketball any day of the week, Aaron.
Exactly. But I like a lot of the thing with Zion is, as we've seen, he's a big boy, and a lot of the hate on Zion. I believe Zion's going to be a good player in the NBA. I happen to be part of that crowd. I'm not a bandwagoner. I'm not a full-on Pelicans fan now because they've got Lonzo and they're like, oh, it's the best connection in the world. No, Zion's going to be a good NBA player, but Zion's injury prone. Zion's a big boy. Zion's got knees. Like, already been out because of those knees. Like, do we really want to risk that? And it's the same thing with the Nets. Do you rush KD back, try and win right now against – if they're really doing this, I think the Nets face the Lakers in the first round. Do you think KD can beat LeBron right off of an injury? Are you going to trust that he won't get injured again and ruin next year's chances with a rebuilding team and a new coach? Or not really rebuilding.
There's so many different questions you could ask, I think, is what you're trying to say, right?
Yes, it's a part of it, but I think a lot of it, you had asked about Zion specifically, and when I think of Zion, and I think of Zion taking 2 months off, I think Zion's going to come back looking 300 and injure his knees in the first game.
He looked heavy when he came back in January. I mean, just imagine now.
I don't want I hate when players get injured. It's something terrible. As an athlete, I've been through injuries. It's not fun. But when you have a guy who's that big and you also take 2 months off the sport, his injury likelihood just naturally goes up. And it's sad, and I hope he doesn't get hurt. But if you put in the New Orleans Pelicans in the next round of the playoffs, I think you're going to have to limit Zion's minutes.
That's 100% fair. I think that it would be too big of a risk if you're the Pelicans to try and play Zion more than 30 minutes a game, I think, would be the maximum if you're me. But why don't we go over, you wanted to talk, I know you wanted to talk about how this would all be housed and the hotel situation. So what are your thoughts on those ideas? Because I know you have been to Disney World rather recently.
So I'm a huge Disney World fan. Before last year, I hadn't been to Disney World since I was in 5th grade. I believe the year was 2010, 2011. I was young. But I went last year with a few of the boys, right? We just were like, let's go to Disney World. Yeah. We stayed at the Dolphin Hotel, and it was great. But when I'm looking at the NBA, you've got 22 teams. You've got 12 players per roster, depending on, what the NBA allows during this. You've got, 6 coaches per team with a 8-man training staff. I don't know how they're going to do equipment staff, but that's 30 people per team. These hotels are huge. Don't get me wrong. You could easily fit all of these teams into one hotel or 2 hotels probably if you really wanted to. But is that really safe?
That would increase that would increase the risk of infection, I think.
Exactly. I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. But we have to realize what we're dealing with. It's a global pandemic. And we can't put these players at risk because we're also rushing them back to play. We miss the game. We want them to play. Mm-hmm. And how do you do that? Because there are obviously some hotels at Disney World that are nicer than others. Because the Dolphin, which we stayed at, me and the boys, because we didn't want to spend a lot of money, is like a normal hotel for business conventions.
Yep.
When your company wants to do a business convention at Disney, you choose the Dolphin. Because it's not an actual Disney hotel. It's owned by Marriott, but that's aside the point. But I don't know, if you have the money and you want a very fancy hotel, you might go to something like the Grand Floridian or the Boardwalk Inn. Those are 2 of the nicer hotels. And how do we pick who stays where? Do we put the top seeds, let them pick and just go down? Or are they going to split hotels? Are you going to put one team on half the hotel and one team in the other half?
I think they're going to cram it in as much as they can, just because I believe the MLS is going to also try to return to play at Disney in a bubble situation similar to the NBA. So I think they're going to be a little cramped for space. I'm not sure of the specifics of how many hotels are at Disney or how many rooms are in each hotel, but I think they're going to try to maximize the amount of teams that they can safely put in each hotel and try to accommodate everyone's needs, while also not overstepping their bounds in terms of how many hotels they're going to use.
Yeah, I think you have to be safe, obviously, but you can't like put discriminate stars per se. Because I don't know, let's take a team like the Miami Heat, right? The Miami Heat don't necessarily have a star, or more like the Pacers. The Pacers don't have like a superstar. Would you say that's correct?
I would say that's correct.
But they're also the 5 seed in the East. So they're not like a bad seed per se. How are you gonna figure out what hotel the Pacers go in? Are you
I
because
think
they
I don't think that it's going to be based off your record. You're going to get to stay in a nicer hotel. I think I don't think. Do you think our team's going to have to pay to stay in their hotels?
I think the league is gonna pay because I don't think the teams were prepared. You could say
I
the
think
teams had money for the hotels that they were supposed to go to when this was like the league
I
was
don't.
supposed to happen.
I mean, this is all a hypothetical. We really don't know exactly what's going to happen. But I don't think you can force people to stay in a crappy hotel because they're the ninth or 10th seed in a conference. I think that's a little ridiculous to me. I think it would have to be random, and it would have to be just have hotels that are of even quality.
I mean, I'm gonna say relatively crappy. I don't think Disney World's
Yeah.
probably not doing a bad job, and like they're not doing crappy things, but they're also like I've thought about this personally. They're missing out on so much fantastic content being at Disney World. Can you imagine if they made a series of Taco Fall going to each Disney park, having dinners with like Cinderella? It would be hilarious,
It
right?
would be great.
Taco and a tiara. Like literally, it makes itself. The whole like the content series writes itself. You put like Taco and Anthony Davis on Space Mountain. Taco doesn't fit. I have to duck on Space Mountain. I keep thinking my head is gonna hit the coaster above me.
Yeah.
Taco on Space Mountain is probably just gonna sit there like ah. They're missing out on so much content. I really hope Taco Fall goes back to Disney World when this is all said and done.
All right. Why don't we move on from Taco Fall at Disney to some possibilities that we might see in games with no fans? I think so. Before we get to this, I think something I've been thinking of is how much media is going to be at these games. Our broadcast is going to be there, and this will really show who is the most important media to the NBA, who they choose to come to this bubble. Hopefully, we are chosen to be able to cover the NBA at this bubble.
I've submitted my application. I think they're going to accept. Looking for that internship for the summer. Really love to stay at Disney.
And we know that ESPN is owned by Disney, so I'm sure that ESPN will have plenty of media members. But I think it'll be interesting. I was thinking that it's going to be a lot of people who vote for like the Hall of Fame, the All NBA ballots, stuff like that. I think is what it would be. I don't think there's an exact number of what's going to happen and how many people are going to be there.
Well, yes, Disney owns ESPN, so I'd expect ESPN commentators to go. I can't imagine NBA playoffs without Chuck, Ernie, Shaq, and Kenny. I really hope that they can get the TNT crew there somehow. If Dwayne Wade wants to join them, I mean, I guess he's part of it. Candace Parker, shout out Candace Parker. But she's also got the WNBA season to deal with. I don't know how that's happening. So there's a lot to, I guess, figure out. I'd assume they're going to go with ESPN because of the relationship.
There will be people from all media outlets. You just assume that.
Do you think you're going to allow that? Do you really think they're going to allow people from all media outlets?
Yes. It's called freedom of the press.
But it's a private property. Like, yes, there's freedom of the press, but there's a private property, and it's a pandemic. So I feel like you can leave people out. How did they do the match? You watched the match. How did they do the match?
I mean, it was on TNT.
Who was there from the media?
I don't know. I only saw Brian Anderson, Justin Thomas, and Charles Barkley, and the I forget her name, but the woman reporter was on the field, on the course.
That's 4.
This is different. This is a whole league. This isn't 4 golfers.
Yeah, but we don't need to hear what LeBron ate for dinner because that's probably what ESPN's going to cover. He's like, oh, he went to Cinderella's castle and had this lovely steak.
There'll be a couple people from The Athletic. There'll be a couple people from CBS. There'll be a couple people from SI. There'll be a couple people from everywhere.
I think they're going to put a limitation. They're going to be like, look, ESPN's going to have the most people. You're going to see Woj there. But then you're going to be like, all right, The Athletic, you can send – isn't The Athletic owned by ESPN?
No, The Athletic
Disney?
is not owned by ESPN.
Okay, so they're going to look at The Athletic and be like, okay, send 1 to 2 people. Okay, right. The Ringer, you can send Bill Simmons, and if Kevin O'Connor wants to plead, he can come. And You can look at
No,
SB Nation
Russillo
or
can go too.
Yahoo Sports, and Shams can come. You can. It's basically. I think it's going to be on a case-to-case scenario, and it's just like I think Disney's obviously going to run it. ESPN's going to make a lot of money, as ESPN always does, because Disney.
Yeah, that's a great point. So why don't we transition to our final, a little final topic that we're going to talk about, which is what could happen possibly during games. So the three things I wrote down was artificial crowd noise, which would be I think could be a cool advantage for the home team, the quote unquote home team, the higher seed, that their sound, if they have a cool, really good sound person who's really good at their job, they could find a way to have the defense chant when they're defending, have loud noises after they score crucial baskets. If you could find a way to take advantage of that, I think that would be really cool. Also, would teams go and scout each other while the other team is playing games? If that was your hypothetical next opponent, would you go in the arena and watch them play? Would that be allowed? I think that would be really cool, like something you would see at an AAU tournament. I think that would be really cool.
So when I hadn't thought about this before, but when you said the artificial crowd noise, the first thing that came to my mind is when you're playing 2K and you're the away team and the screen starts shaking because you're the away team and you're shooting a free throw. Obviously, your screen is not going to shake when the opponents are shooting a free throw. But I think it's just the ways you can use artificial crowd noise would be cool, as you said. I also would like to bring up the Deshaun Jackson, different sport. I understand that. He said football's probably not going to have fans. Let's make it like the XFL, my favorite league in the world. Mic up the players.
Yeah, I saw Aaron yesterday. He was wearing his New York Guardians shirt.
It's true. I do love those New York Guardians. Luis Perez was the GOAT. But realistically, how would that yes, we need more content without fans, I think. And miking up the players could be interesting. It could be it's something they can look into.
I just don't think it'll ever get agreed. I don't think it'll ever get agreed upon. And if you the only way it would work is if you had a 30-second delay on the games, which would be fine, and you had someone bleep out every time there was a swear.
Yeah. They curse a lot in the NBA.
I think it would be
but
a lot more
difficult. They also did
difficult.
a terrible. The way they did it in the XFL when they were bleeping people out, they would just kind of miss it, so you just wouldn't hear what he said. So it would just be that guy, he fucking, and then you just miss the rest of his quote because they accidentally bleeped out the rest and not his curse.
What about would they have to keep it clean in the match when Brady hit the shot from over 100 yards out and he's like, take a suck of that, Chuck? Something like that? You think that would be okay?
I think you'll have to talk to NBPA President Chris Paul and be like, look, no cursing. Y'all got to be civil. And Chris Paul is probably going to look at them and be like, it's the NBA Finals. I'm going to say whatever I want to say.
But yeah, those are some possibilities we saw. I believe on Thursday, June 4th, there's going to be a vote with Silver presenting his final plan and the Board of Governors to approve a return to play, which is very exciting. That is a date we are anxiously awaiting. This podcast will be up tomorrow morning. So Tuesday, you'll be listening to this on Tuesday morning on the odshack.com. Thank you for reading our website and all the content we're producing. Aaron, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Adam Silver for president. That's all I can say. He's done a great job.
Adam Silver for president is how we'll leave you today, folks. Thank you very much for listening on the Shack Podcast Network. We'll catch you next time.
Have a great day, everyone.